went down is nothing short of unbelievable. Brock Lesnar, the Beast Incarnate himself, made a jaw-dropping return that has shaken the very foundation of WWE. The former UFC heavyweight champion and dominant force in sports entertainment stormed back into the ring in a way no one saw coming. And who was his first victim? None other than the powerhouse Bronson Reed, who thought he was untouchable. But Lesnar's savage attack was a brutal reminder of why he's called the Beast. This wasn't just a return, it was a statement. If you haven't seen it yet, buckle up, because the destruction Brock unleashed is about to blow your mind. Let's dive into this epic backstage confrontation. Brock Lesnar's absence, the unseen return. Before we delve into the explosive moment itself, it's important to understand the context surrounding Brock Lesnar's return. For over 8 months, fans had been left wondering if they'd ever see the Beast Incarnate again. After a series of high-profile matches, including his historic bouts at major events like WrestleMania, Lesnar disappeared from WWE television. His absence was felt deeply, but it was also somewhat expected. Contract negotiations had stalled, other opportunities were on the horizon, and Lesnar seemed to be content focusing on his life outside of wrestling, particularly on his farm in Saskatchewan. During this hiatus, the wrestling world began to come to terms with the idea that perhaps Lesnar's career was winding down. He had achieved everything there was to achieve in the industry, from his multiple WWE championships to his legendary UFC career. Many fans assumed that the WWE would be able to move forward, building new stars, while Lesnar enjoyed his time away from the ring. Bronson Reed, the rising star. As Lesnar's absence stretched on, new stars were stepping up to fill the void. One of the most impressive of these rising stars was Bronson Reed. The Australian powerhouse had been building a reputation as one of the most dangerous big men in WWE. His size, combined with his agility and speed, made him an impressive figure, and he quickly gained a reputation for being one of the most dominant forces on the roster. Reed's signature move, the Tsunami Splash, had already ended several careers, making him one of WWE's most feared competitors. Reed wasn't just a force in the ring because of his size, though. He possessed an undeniable mean streak that made him a truly dangerous individual. Whether he was intimidating opponents with his sheer physical presence or delivering devastating power moves, Reed had become a standout in WWE's heavyweight division. In many ways, he had become the new face of dominance in WWE, a role that he had worked hard to claim. The shock of Brock Lesnar's return. Out of nowhere, the arena was suddenly rocked by the unmistakable sound of Brock Lesnar's entrance music. The impact was immediate. Fans leaped to their feet in a mix of excitement and disbelief. For over 8 months, Lesnar had been absent from WWE programming, and the idea of him returning wasn't even on the radar. But here he was, stepping onto the stage, a harbinger of destruction. The deafening roar of the crowd filled the arena as Lesnar slowly made his way down the ramp. This wasn't a man rushing to the ring to start a match. This was a predator who had identified his prey and was now savoring the moment before the hunt. Bronson Reed, who had been dominating his match, suddenly found himself staring down the most dangerous man in professional wrestling. You could see it in his eyes. The realization that the night he thought would be another routine victory was now about to become a living nightmare. Lesnar's methodical approach to the ring only added to the tension. His eyes locked on Reed, cold and calculating, as if he was already planning how he would dismantle this man who had dared to consider himself dominant. The savage beat down. Lesnar shows his power. Lesnar's entrance was deliberate. Every step he took toward the ring made it clear that he was there not just to fight, but to make a statement. Reed, to his credit, didn't cower in fear. The Australian powerhouse tried to project his usual confidence, taunting Lesnar as he entered the ring. But it was clear to everyone watching that Reed had underestimated the sheer ferocity of the beast. As Lesnar finally stepped into the ring, Reed attempted to charge at him, trying to take the fight to the beast. But this wasn't any ordinary opponent. Lesnar caught Reed's attack with ease, treating him like a rag doll, lifting the 330-pound man effortlessly. What followed was a brutal showcase of Lesnar's raw power. The first German suplex was enough to make the crowd wince. Reed's body was launched into the air, crashing down with an unnatural force. The impact was so jarring that even fans in the front row winced in sympathy. And this was just the beginning. Lesnar didn't stop at one suplex. No, this was about making a statement. He delivered another, and another. The suplexes came in rapid succession, each one more devastating than the last. By the fifth German suplex, it was clear that Reed's body was breaking down. The crowd went from excitement to genuine concern, and the tension in the arena was palpable. This wasn't a match. It was a one-sided destruction. The devastating F5, the end of Reed's reign. After what felt like an eternity of punishment, Lesnar decided it was time to end this brutal display. The F5 was coming. And when Lesnar hoisted Reed onto his shoulders, the size and strength difference between the two men became painfully obvious. Despite Reed's 330-pound frame, he looked small and defenseless in Lesnar's grip. When Lesnar delivered the F5, the entire arena shook. The ring seemed to collapse under the sheer force of the impact. Reed's body slammed into the mat with a sickening thud, and he went limp instantly, completely incapacitated. The crowd went silent, the reality of what they had just witnessed sinking in. Medical personnel rushed to the ring to tend to Reed, who appeared to be in serious condition. WWE officials quickly sprang into action as Reed was stretchered out of the arena, unable to even move on his own. In the ring, Lesnar stood unscathed, his dominance undeniable. The aftermath, Brock Lesnar's message to WWE. Once Reed had been removed from the arena, Brock Lesnar took the microphone, his voice cold and calm. "I'm back, and I'm hungrier than ever," he said. The crowd was still recovering from the brutal assault they had just witnessed, and Lesnar's words carried a weight that was impossible to ignore. "Anyone who thinks they can fill the void I left behind is about to learn why I'm called the Beast Incarnate." The impact of these words wasn't just felt in the arena. It was felt across the entire WWE landscape. Lesnar's return had completely upended the current power structure, and no one was safe. From the top stars to the mid-card performers, everyone in WWE now knew that Lesnar's return was a signal that the Beast was back to reclaim his spot at the top of the food chain. Conclusion: the Beast's return changes WWE forever. Brock Lesnar's return and subsequent destruction of Bronson Reed was more than just a shocking moment. It was the kind of display that redefines the landscape of professional wrestling. No one was safe from Lesnar's wrath, and anyone who dared to stand in his way would suffer the same fate as Reed. With this brutal return, Lesnar has proven that he remains the most dangerous and compelling figure in WWE, and that the rest of the roster is now living in his shadow. WWE has always been home to legends, but few are as terrifying, as powerful, and as unstoppable as Brock Lesnar. His return is a stark reminder of why he's called the Beast Incarnate, and it's clear that WWE's power dynamics have been forever altered. The question now is, who's next?